Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. This week we read Parasha Mikeitz, and we know this famous parasha. It opens up with the two dreams of Pharaoh, where he's dreaming about 7 fat cows that come out of the river Nile, and they're eating in the pasture, and then 7 skinny cows come out and they swallow the fat cows. And then he dreams another dream. He wakes up and he dreams a different dream where there's 7 stalks of 7 ears of corn that are fat and yummy, and then 7 other very skinny ears of corn come out of the Nile, and they swallow the fat ears of corn. So he's very disturbed with his dreams, and he calls all his necromancers to come and please tell him what he dreamed about. Nobody can figure out what he dreamt about. They gave him some interpretations, but he was not happy with them. And suddenly, out of nowhere, the chief butcher, the one that served him the wine, that Joseph had interpreted his dream 2 years before in prison, and because of his interpretation he was out, remembered Joseph. And he told the Pharaoh that he had remembered the chief butler. He remembered this boy that was in the jail, in the prison, and he was a good dream reader. So it says in Bereshit, in Parasha Mikeitz, Pharaoh sent and called for Joseph, and they rushed him out of the prison pit. He shaved and changed his clothes, and he came before Pharaoh. And the Zohar HaKadosh, the Holy Zohar, explains this verse at some length. So the Rabbi Abba began to say, God shows favor to those who fear him and those who hope for his kindness. This is in Tehillim 147. How much does God desire tzaddikim? For a tzaddik make peace above and make peace below, and they bring bride to her groom. Because of this, God desires those who fear him and do his will. And the verse says, God shows favor to those who fear him, not in those who fear him. So it's very interesting, the wording of the Zohar, of what Rabbi Abba is saying, that it says that God desired tzaddikim. Tzaddikim is righteous individuals, people who have transformed the evil forces of the world, of their own character traits, into light, into goodness. And it says that he desires them because they make peace above and make peace below. And what a tzaddik does, when it says that he brings the bride to the groom, the Jewish people are compared to the bride, and God is compared to the groom. So this is what tzaddikim do. They bring peace. Why? Because they are able to connect people to Hashem. And so he says, God shows favor to those who fear him and not in those who fear him. What does this mean? That not only he desires the tzaddikim themselves, but as if he turns his will to others, he also desires regular people like us, like you and me, that will turn our hearts to him, and we will also fear him. So the reality of I've explained this in different classes, that there's 2 different types of fear of God, Yirah, Shamaim, 2 different. There's a low level of fear and there's a high level of fear. So a low level of fear is when a person doesn't do things that go against God's will because they're scared of the effect that this will cause on their life. So they know that if they kill, they're going to end up in prison, that if they steal, they're going to end up in prison. So these things keep them away from trouble. But there's a higher level of fear, and this is what he's talking about, is that fear that we love God so much, that we come to know God and love him so much, that we would never do anything that goes against him, not out of fear, but out of love, because we don't want to be separated from him. So the fear factor really is not being close to Hashem. So we see that when Pharaoh sent for him, the verse says, Vayeritzehu, he rushed him. And this can mean that they appeased him and answered words of simha to him, for he was depressed from being in the pit. Come and see, at the start he was in the pit, and from the pit he arose afterwards to greatness. So this word, rotse, favor, really means to appease. When a person is in a place where he's down, where he's afraid, where he's scared, where he's depressed, he can only see up to here. He cannot see more than that. The wall is in front of their head, and that's what they see. So what it's telling us here is the moment that he came out of the prison, Joseph was in a state of such joy that this opened up for him the ability to see much more than what he was able to see. So it says, what exactly is this appeasement with which God turns to the tzaddikim and with which he turns to Joseph? We know that Joseph was known as Joseph HaTzadik. There's no other prophet in our Torah that's given this appellation of HaTzadik. Not even Moshe Rabbeinu is called Moshe HaTzadik. Only Joseph is known as Joseph HaTzadik, because he was able to contain his natural tendency and run away from it. And that was when the wife of Potiphar was enticing him to have a relationship with her. And at that moment he became very strong in his convictions, and he ran away. So the Gemara relates the story of Abba Yehuda. This is a different Abba, who was beset by financial misfortune. This man was going through a very hard time financially. He was suffering a lot. And one day, he's plowing his field, and his cow slipped. And you can imagine when a person is going through a hard time financially, and his tools of labor get ruined, this is a tragedy. But he went up to the cow to remove it from the field, and when he picked her up, he saw underneath there were treasures. There were treasures. God, and it says in the Yerushalmi, it says, God enlightened his eyes, and he found hidden treasure. He explained, my cow broke her leg for my good. And so this whole idea that everything is for the best, that everything that happens to us really is for our benefit, is a very important concept for a Jew and for everybody. That God is not going to do things to you to bring you down. The only reason a person falls is only to go up. That's the only reason. And so Abba Yehuda realized that everything that had happened to him was for the ultimate well-being. Even if at the time it seemed bad, at the end it came because it was good for him. And the appeasement that God gives to the tzaddikim and that he gave to Joseph was the appreciation that everything happens for a purpose and is part of a greater plan. Everything that happened has to happen so we can come to a place that God desires. Everything is for our benefit, and Hashem only wants good for us. And He desires things from us. He wants you to climb the ladder. He doesn't want you to become this passive human being in life that gets comfortable with your life and you just stop growing, stop flourishing. He wants people to grow. He wants people to become better. He wants people to reach potentials. And this is the whole purpose. So it should also be clear that at least in retrospect, the upset caused by events is always outweighed by the ultimate benefit that will accrue. So even if we cannot see it at the moment, even if we're going through a hard moment in our lives, and we don't see the benefit of it, it's so painful that we don't see it, at least in the back of our minds, we should think this way. We should think, oh, Hashem does everything for the good. Gamzu letova. Everything is for the good. And so when we eat, for example, and we chew our food and we swallow, this can be quite an effort. It's not, for some people it's easier, so for people it's harder. But anyways, eating doesn't take no effort. People have to put an effort into eating. You have to buy the food, or you have to cook the food, or you have to heat the food, you have to serve it, you have to cut it, you have to chew it, you have to swallow it. And everything takes effort, but at the end, what happens after outweighs the effort. Any person that has a sane mind is going to understand that he's eating for his benefit. He's not eating just because. We need to eat in order to live. We need energy. We get the energy from the food we eat. We need to be healthy. We need to nurture our bodies. We need to be strong. And so we know that eating, the whole effort of eating, really outweighs the benefit. I said the benefit is bigger. So this is with all aspects of life. Difficulties in life pale into insignificance when compared to the end of the journey to which these troubles will ultimately lead. So when we understand that, yes, sometimes we have to go, sometimes, or I would say always, it's not a free ride life. It's not a free ride. And I find that today's younger generations are so far away from these concepts. They think that everything is easy. Everything is instant. You need money, you go Zelle, you send Zelle, you want to eat, you pop it into the microwave. Everything is instant gratification. And the younger generations don't have this concept of having to go through difficulties in life to be able to achieve the higher goal. And that's why I think personally, I'm not a therapist or anything, but I would say that from the Torah that I learned and the way I live my life, I could pinpoint that most of people's sadness in life and low energies, let's call it, comes from an illusion of what life should be, and it's not. And people have an idea everything should be easy. And life is not easy. It's the reality. Life, while you're breathing in this world and you're toiling in this world, it's not an easy life. Even a baby is just born. He needs to learn how to suck to be able to feed himself. And sometimes it's not easy. He gets gassy, it hurts, they cry. It's not easy. So, but the important thing that we have to remind ourselves and teach people around us is that the journey, this is what matters, is the journey which ultimately will lead us to the place that we need to get to. And indeed, we should ask, in the above analogy of eating, choose life as it comes. Like, yes, you know what? If it's hard to earn a degree, but this is my dream job, and I'm gonna kill myself to get into that college that I want to go because it has the best program for this particular quality that I want to bring out of myself, then a person works hard to get there. But people think, no, everything is done, everything is easy. So one may ask, why is it in the case of Joseph and of Abba Yehuda, God shows the sufferer only after the sequence of events that everything really was for the ultimate purpose? Yeah, they suffered. Joseph was in this prison for many, many years, and he suffered. So the answer is simple. For without the uncertainty that the sufferer faces at the outset and during the travails, there would be no test. And if there's no test, there's no gain. I remember in my olden days, they would say, no pain, no gain. I remember, no pain, no gain. If you don't have the pain, you're not going to gain. And it's true. And it sounds not up to the psychology of what people think today, but in reality, this is life. This is the truth. And so if we know for certain that everything in our lives is going to be perfect and everything's going to be solved, and we have this certainty, then it would be easy to bear, but it would have very little value. You would not be able to reach your potential. You would just sit and wait for things to calm down. But after the test, God can and does show us the value of the experience. No, the happiest people are not the people who have it easy. The happiest people are people who have to toil and struggle. I remember once Dennis Prager in his book of I remember something about happiness, but you can Google it up and you'll find it, and it's a brilliant book. And he says, like if you have a kid that's going out to a discotheque on a Saturday night and he's gonna go and have fun and drink and whatever, the next day he's not gonna feel good. He's gonna have a heavy head, he's not gonna feel so good, he's gonna be tired, he's not gonna have easy. But if you have a kid that instead of going to party and get drunk, or today's world they do drugs, instead of doing this, he wants to be a writer, and instead of going to these places, he sits and he writes and he writes and he writes and he writes. Yes, it's hard. It's grueling to be a writer till you get the idea, till you put it in the paper, till you write it. In those today, you do it in the computer. But it's grueling. It takes effort. But at the end of the day this kid publishes his book and he's a bestseller author, the joy that he's gonna feel, the person that's partying and doing all these things will never come to experience. So it behooves all of us to bear this concept in mind, particularly when we're embarking on a new and difficult situation, for it will give us the strength to shoulder any troubles which come our way. Indeed, emphasizing the ultimate value of every experience should be axiomatic in our daily life, for with it we can be certain that we will appreciate and overcome anything. So yes, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And when a person is able to grow from his experiences and achieve, he's gonna be glowing. So I wish you a blessed week. We're beginning the week of Hanukkah, God willing, this week. And just as that menorah shines, those lights shine for you, you should also shine for the world. So remember, live a little higher. Thank you.